32 minutes, 21 seconds. 5-second tone followed by a 1-second pause.
You are listening to Space Boy Universe.
Okay, gang, let's go.
From the space city called Houston, Texas, welcome to Space Boy Universe, featuring Space Boy and the lovely Solana. So strap in and prepare for launch sequence.
Greetings and salutations, I'm Space Boy.
I'm Solana.
And this is Space Boy Universe. It is November 18th, 2017, one of my favorite days of the whole 365 days out of the year. And tonight's guest is Jeff-mccall. Man, he is an English songwriter and producer, and he's got some righteous tunes. And we're going to talk to him tonight a little bit later. As always, you can follow us on Twitter. That's at the SBU Universe. Follow Solana at Solana. Follow me at Spaceboy Music. Of course, need to follow the network that brings you all the fine content, and that's at the SBU Network. Also, if you want to get a chance to check out one of our affiliates, you should definitely check out the PAUK Radio Network. We love them to death. Remember to hashtag your tweets tonight, the hashtag Spaceboy or SB Universe and hashtag Space Cadets. Speaking of Space Cadets, and if I get my mouth back in order, you can hang out with them by going to spaceboyuniverse.com, click the dancing chat bubble in the player, and that'll get you in with all the cool kids. In addition to Twitter, you can find the Universe on Facebook, Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Just look for Spaceboy Universe. Speaking of YouTube, eventually, Solana, we're going to get back on top of that. You can find more than the Spaceboy Universe of archive of shows. That's righty. There is video content from Spaceboy Music, video interviews, 2-Bit Gamers, and so much more. Go check it out. In fact, Space Cadets, you should subscribe. A lot of good content there. Can't catch a show live? No problemo. Listen, just take the SBU on the go with you via Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, and listen to rebroadcast on other networks like the PAUK Radio Network. Great ways to listen. So on that magical note, because we love the broadcast, how are you tonight, Solana?
Should I come up with a way to condense all that for you?
No, I think it's it's a fair chunk of stuff that I need to get across, and it's kind of my shtick, if you will, to just kind of get the old chops, running for the show. And, it is what it is, and, I think everybody kind of expects it. You hear the music, you hear the announcement, you hear the woman count down to the show, everybody's going out of their mind, and, they're ready for Space Boy Universe.
Sure. Okay.
Why you look at me crazy over there?
Well, I can look at you crazy today because it's your birthday.
Yeah, it is my birthday.
Yeah, you don't give a crap, do you? You're just like me, like, okay, whatever, let's move on.
Well, it comes once a year, and
thank goodness.
And then it goes. I turned the big 4-8 today. I'm 48, if you can believe that. And I love it how you always...
looks 12.
I knew you were going to say that. That's what I was about to bring up.
I'm going to punch him in the face tonight when he's asleep.
As always. It's it's a new day, and I'm another year older, and so there's it goes. And I want to thank everyone that's wished me a happy birthday. Thank you. I appreciate that, and it doesn't go unnoticed. I have tried to respond to all of those who have said happy birthday, and it's nice to have Space Cadets and friends and family that love me, and that's, I guess, all I can say about that. All right. She looks at me like I'm still crazy. So where do we go on this magical mystery tour
Oh, you
tonight?
said, I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to talk this.
Of
Why
course.
don't you talk about this,
first,
and that?
First off, wait, and I know you had to, like, okay, there was stuff I didn't,
Oh, yeah. Well, you do yours. If we get to it, we get to it.
Well,
It's
right
no
off the
big
bat, I saw the preview for The Incredibles 2. It's been long overdue.
I
There's
don't know why it's taking so
12
long.
years since the last
Yeah.
one, which is kind of funny because it's going to take place like right after where the ending of the first one ended. And in this one, you see the dad is now kind of a stay at home, and the mother is more of the action hero this time, which is kind of like what the theme is with a lot of action movies that they are today. You've got Wonder Woman, you've got the Black Widow. So, you've got major women leads running the superhero arena. So it just makes sense for Elastigirl to take, the lead in this movie. So that should be fun. And then I guess the dad is going to figure out that the child has special powers. And he's going to, a lot of fun there. Now, you and I have seen a preview for Deadpool. You haven't seen the whole thing.
I didn't know there was more to it.
Oh my goodness, babe! It was so wonderful. I mean, it's going to be awesome. I mean, you are looking forward. I mean, I'll have to show you it after show, but
Okay.
But
Because I thought it was just a Bob Ross thing.
that was funny because I love how he's like these colors are like Soylent Green. Take this color and dip it into the Betty White, and he's just painting and
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
and the whole thing was great. And then of course towards the end I guess he loses his brush, and then he looks back and then looks at this painting, and I guess he trips out and it looks like he falls down, and they go to technical difficulties, and then that's when the trailer kicks in, and it has people from the first movie, and it is action packed, and it should be for a great ride for this next movie. So, of course, now in the preview, they didn't show Cable, which is going to be played by Josh Brolin. And a lot of people are looking forward to his character. I mean,
Isn't he in the Marvel thing? Is
Yes.
Thanos? Well, how come they just keep going to him? Aren't there enough actors to play different parts in the world?
It was interesting, because different people were wanting to play Cable, but I guess they got Josh Brolin.
Keira Knightley would have kicked butt.
So,
I would have paid to see that.
but it's going to be good. I like it. It looks great. Now, keeping with this theme of superhero movies and everything, Justice League came out yesterday.
Did it?
Yes.
I had no idea.
And that would explain the amount of money it's taking in.
Because
right
I
now.
didn't go see it. It didn't work.
It didn't work. Well, we haven't seen Thor, but Thor has really done some great. You have some numbers on that, don't you?
Oh, it's like 230 some odd billion.
Yeah, 238 million, close, more or less, and it's still rocking it.
Right,
I mean,
I don't know,
Thor's
I think
been out for about 3 to 4 weeks now.
Yeah.
I think it was released at the beginning of
this month. Yeah.
Of this month. Now, my favorite video game guy, the Angry Video Game Nerd, he usually does a thing where he talks about movies. He's a kind of a movie aficionado, if you will. Him and his best friend James, and they were, usually when a movie like this comes out, they kind of, give a review and talk about it. And it's kind of like, it was one of those movies where it was all right. Nothing crazy to brag about or anything.
I just don't understand. I was telling you earlier today with the Justice League thing. When I watched Batman versus Superman, was it Batman versus Superman?
Batman versus Superman, yes.
Yeah. Batman is crappy, and he's just like a little poser, and this Superman is so emo. Oh my goodness, angst everywhere.
Is it because of who's playing Batman?
I don't know. Maybe it's possible for him to do it better, but it's too late now.
I think it's funny because originally he played Daredevil, which is a Marvel product, and that movie didn't do too well either. I think that's where
because he's in it. It's because he's in it. The only thing that was redeeming about Batman vs Superman was, of course, Wonder Woman.
Yes, she stood out. That was really good. When she first came on there, I was like, I wonder who she is. And then I realized that it was Wonder Woman.
Diana.
Yeah, Diana. And it's interesting to see that the Wonder Woman movie has been the only part of that franchise that's been successful.
That means give Justice League to that woman, to the women writers and the women directors.
We'll get a load of this, since we're on the talk of Marvel and comics and DC stuff. I can't think. It's Jake, and I can't think of his last name. It starts with a G. I know you know who this is.
Say it again.
Jake starts with a G. Anyway,
Gyllenhaal?
Yes.
I was going to say Jiggly Fitz.
Well, you'd be close.
Jiggly
I mean, I guess he does. I'm not sure.
Have you ever seen him and Ryan Reynolds? You ever seen him and Ryan Reynolds being interviewed?
I know
it's just crazy.
Wasn't we were watching something about Life where they were
they were in Life together and
yeah.
they were being interviewed for it, and they talked about everything except
the movie.
The movie, yeah.
Which don't get me started on that movie. I hate that Twilight Zone type ending movie.
Yeah, but just watching them being interviewed is
but
better
yeah,
than the movie.
They were funny. So I guess there's some rumor, some scuttlebutt out there that he might be replacing Ben Affleck as Batman.
Do it. Let's do it now.
And so, there was, Ben was going to do a solo Batman movie. So I don't know what's up with that now. It's kind of all up in the air. But from what I hear now, they want to replace him. Apparently, he's not.
No, he's not doing it.
He's not cutting the mustard.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. Okay. This always brings up a good topic of where did DC fail? DC fell because they let Marvel just take the lead.
They didn't do anything.
Because Marvel planned out, okay, we're going to do this. You have planning, you have well-written scripts, and kind of built the universe and saying, okay, we're going to do this, this, this. Marvel was like, okay, where's my pants? I'm late for work. I got a gravy stain on my shirt. There's a burnt iron that's on the back of it. That's how DC has come across in this game. Because
I think they're taking it too seriously.
Well, I mean, the Nolan. I can't even think. I know what you're talking about. I'm grasping for names right now.
Yeah.
But Nolan did a great trilogy with the Batman. I thought
it was dark.
It was dark. And yes.
Whereas
this
Marvel is just not dark.
It's not dark, but still,
comedy.
Those three Batman movies were successful. They should have.
Say they need to go one way or the other, huh?
Well, I think that the DC, the way they've handled it, has not been very effective. Whoever their management team is on that,
it doesn't seem as polished or mature. Not mature, but it doesn't seem like a powerhouse compared to what Marvel has.
Oh yeah, I mean, but you've got the mouse ears behind that. I mean, between that and then what they're doing now, what they've been doing for Marvel is what they're doing to Star Wars now. And I don't really have a beef with it. I mean, it's been stuff like, oh, I've wanted to see this. Oh, I've wanted to see this. And I like to think that they're kind of catering to the fans finally for some of these movies. And unfortunately, DC is not really
doing something on their own.
Yeah, they're doing something all their own. Now, it's interesting to note that Disney, I think I mentioned this last week, that Disney wants to buy 20th Century Fox. Because I think in one aspect it'll give, because Disney is going to be doing their own streaming service, and I think I do recall talking about this, but doing their own streaming service, which if they could acquire the 20th Century catalog, that's a big
X-Men and
a big thing, and which would lead to the X-Men and all the Fantastic Four, Deadpool going under.
That's more Marvel coming into Marvel.
So exactly,
and they could all cross over.
Yeah, in fact, I was just going to say that you could actually see Deadpool in a Avengers movie.
I sit here in my Deadpool jacket.
Yeah, so the future on that end is pretty promising. But once again,
I'm not really invested in either one.
The
myself.
DC universe is just it's messed up.
I'm looking forward to the big one, which takes Avengers with
Guardians
and puts them together.
I think there will be a cameo again with Spider-Man. So they're really doing it up, which is really cool. So that'll be great to see if it does come down. I know we both had some concerns about this one company having all the cards.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know.
So only time will tell on that.
As long as they don't buy Kindle Unlimited, I don't really care that much. You start messing with my Kindle Unlimited, then I'm going to have some strongly worded emails sent.
So what do you got on your end? Because you mentioned that there was a few items.
Oh, well, only if you didn't have.
No, I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Well, this might be a little more than we have time for, but I just thought this was intriguing. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at this article, and this is on openminds.tv, in case you're wondering where I'm looking at this. Mm-hmm. And I feel like maybe this is something everybody already knows, but this article title is Spielberg, as in Steven Spielberg, Spielberg offered to aid the United Nations UFO effort during the Close Encounters era. During time he was making
Close
that
Encounters
movie.
of the Third Kind.
So I guess this is, this is 1970s. Now, who found this out? Lee Spiegel.
Really? Lee Spiegel, of all people.
Uh-huh. And so he met with Spielberg. And Spiegel, he's a New Yorker. He had put together a record album documentary. So I guess he had an audio documentary he put on LP. Mm-hmm. It was on UFOs. And he talked, he was learning at the time, a lot of credible people were talking about UFOs back then. CBS liked what he was doing, and they sent him to interview these people that were talking about UFOs, like Gordon Cooper, people like that, politicians, scientists, people in law enforcement. So after Spiegel produced that audio publication, he heard about the effort the UN was going to try to take to look into the UFO issue. That effort was initiated by Grenada's Prime Minister, Sir Eric Gary. But he's decided he needed, more help, more credible people. So he contacted the ambassadors and offered his services, and the government of Grenada liked his idea, and they started a plan. So two of the people that Spiegel got on board with this was Dr. J. Allen Hynek and Dr. Jacques Vallée. Ever heard of those dudes? Yeah.
Well, there were characters based upon both of those characters.
So Hynek and Vallée played important roles in the conception of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Hynek developed the Close Encounter UFO sighting categorization, whatever system, the categories. And he was a consultant for Spielberg on Close Encounters. Vallée, being French, was the inspiration for Claude Lacombe, played by the French director Francois Truffaut. So I think this is pretty cool. Spiegel said, there's too many names like that, okay, that Spiegel said one day he got a call from Spielberg's publicist to see if he wanted to go to Hollywood and meet Steven, Hynek, and Vallée. And, of course, he just said, well, when do you want me there? He didn't think any of those guys knew who he was, Spiegel. He was told Spielberg heard of his upcoming UN presentation and wanted to talk to the group to offer his assistance. So you've got Lee wanting to go to the UN and present, about how to look into UFO cases. And Spielberg's like, hey, I want to help. And I'm like, well, that's just like an axis of awesome right there, isn't it? So, so they did meet and talk UFOs, and at the end of the meeting, Spielberg said his office would help with anything they needed, and they did some graphics and information that was incorporated into the UN presentation. And this was not November 1978. So Spiegel, Hynek, Vallée, Gary Cooper, not Gary Cooper, but that Ambassador Gary and Gordon Cooper, and lots of other credible witnesses and researchers put on that presentation. You can see this on openminds.tv, and I think it's just on YouTube. Rare UN UFO Hearing 1978 footage. You can find it on YouTube. So I just thought that was really neat. And there's a second one, government UFO agencies, official government UFO agencies. So I just thought that was kind of cool. So Lee Spiegel had a hand in, and Spielberg had a hand in, trying to look into it.
Interesting. Yeah, I was just thinking, of all things, how cynical I am right now of things UFO related, which brings me to a thing about, well, there's two things. There was this really cool video that's out there of supposedly another one of these things where an alien was videotaped, and they were at some kind of site that it was, the alien looked dead, but it was frozen, I guess, and they found it at some kind of frozen site. I don't know. I can't put my finger on. I know they were in parkas of some kind, but showing the alien, and I found that pretty interesting, and that is out there. But another thing that really caught my eye was there are many of our audience that knows Heather Wade. She is the host of I guess Midnight in the Desert. That she kind of took over for Art Bell on the Dark Radio Network. Dark Matter Radio Network. That's right. Yeah. Dark Matter. I had so many different radio networks that we come into contact. Keep up with. It is, but she had posted that she might be getting to a point where it might be ending, and posted that on Facebook. And I was like, okay, what's going on? Because Heather's done an exceptional job at that position. I mean, she initially got some criticism up front, but
a number of things.
And there's could be numbers. It could be not enough sponsorship, or and then there was stuff like maybe Art's kind of taking back his funding for the show, or it could be a number of things. And it's kind of sad because, like I said, she's done really an exceptional job over there, and to doing what to take the reins. After Art Bell is something, and so, it's just, I guess she'll be sorely missed if she leaves there, but hopefully, because she's so talented, that she'll land back on her feet somewhere else and maybe do her own thing, because, it's very easy to do your own thing with the Spreaker thing. We try to do our own thing, and so it works for us. So we wish Heather Wade the best in the future and whatever she does.
I've never heard her, but I only know about it through you. So.
Yeah. Well, we wish her the very best of into the future, and we'll go from there on that. Now, you're looking at me. Your eyeball.
I'm just wondering what you're doing.
Well, I'd say you're mesmerized by just looking at me, and I know that's a lie.
Because you're 48 and you look like you're 12.
It's the ball cap.
Pissing me off.
It covers the bald spot on my back. But anyway, where else? Let me bring this up.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so
cool.
Recently, we're trying to do different ways to raise money because we're really gun ho of going towards Comic Palooza, owning it. And raising money is a necessity. It's not like we got to run a broadcast. We do 2 shows. I don't mind saying, and you can check that out on the SBU network to get where they are at and all that good stuff. But I guess what I'm trying to get point is that we've been trying to raise money. So what we did was I recently put my guitar up on eBay that I wrote the song Fate or Not 1. Now, if you know the word Fate or Not, then you know exactly the show I'm talking about. And so I put it up for auction, or with the help of Solana, actually. She helped with this. I can't really claim total percent. She's rolling her eyes over there. And so...
I'm trying not to have this to devolve into a little argument.
So anyway, the thing is that no sooner than it was put up, than it was sold, and I want to congratulate Rita. And if you know the show Fade to Black, then you know who it is, and we wish them well. I'll be signing it soon, and it'll be going out the door. But anyway, congratulations. But hopefully what I bring up the subject matter is that there might be another thing where you could buy something in the near future to keep us going so that we can make Comic Palooza an awesome year this 2018 coming up. And so, it'll be great. It'll be cool. It'll be awesome. So on that magical note, Solana, I know that you have something else in your bag of goodies.
Oh, I was going to tell you this last week because I want to hear you go, what?
Okay.
Did you know that, sorry, because I know your action, Pandora made $80 million in U.S. App Store revenue in third quarter, booting Netflix from the top grossing spot.
What?
See?
You know I have a beef with Pandora.
That's why I wanted to tell you. You would think because of the competition with Spotify and Apple Music, Pandora would be like, because they're subscription based now, they wouldn't stand a chance with their piddly little application. But they're on the rise because of their premium tier. Believe it or not, people are willing to pay.
Did not have commercials?
Yeah, so that's their own version on demand, combination of radio-like listening, which Spotify has also. We're not sponsored by anybody, but that's my personal preference.
You know, here it is. This is my opinion about Pandora is that they weren't bad. I initially listened.
They were
to them.
the only thing for a long time.
They were the only thing, and they did the only thing well. Where my beef came in is as an independent artist, and I'm looking forward to talking to Jeff McCall on this subject matter too, is that they have very stringent things to get your music up to their site to be able to play it, and I think it's crazy. I mean, I've tried to submit several of my albums. Only one has ever successfully been taken by them, and they go through this process of some person in a cube listening to music, and if they make it past that person, then it goes on to going on their platform. And which makes me mad is because originally how I had to submit it, they would only take CDs. So in other words, I had to get a CD from Amazon, which I love Amazon, and then once I got that CD, then I'd had to get some kind of thing printed up and then send it off to Pandora for them to upload it and put it on their service. Needless to say, they kept rejecting all my albums, and so I said, you know what, just take down my album, but all my albums that you do have. And then they told me no, of all things, and so
we're bitter.
Yeah, I am a little bitter. I don't mind telling you when I'm bitter about something, and Pandora just really just burnt my hide as an independent artist. So, in the long stream of things, the company that I use for, I guess uploading and getting it out there has been TuneCore, and they've been great about getting it to YouTube and making sure I collect revenue from that, and then also getting my music to Spotify and iTunes. And so it's really a great way to get to all these different things. And but as far as Pandora, if you hear Spaceboy music on there, I'm really surprised. But or if you hear Spaceboy music, it's probably not me. It's probably some poser trying to often imitate but never duplicate. So where the heck is that thing? There we go. The goat makes me feel much better. So, anything else you want to add to that, Solano?
Your goat?
No, my goat just helps me to reach a level of zen, if you will, to release the frustration, the anger.
All right.
And so I've released my inner goat. So there you go.
I think we've covered everything that was left over from last time, because I remember telling you Sony sold acid.
Oh,
yeah, I know we talked about that.
You mean they're competing with Walter White?
They sold Acid Soundforge to this company called Magix.
I know. Well, funny thing, I've worked with
Magix.
Another great thing to talk to Jeff here shortly. But I was surprised. Acid and Soundforge, great products, but really Sony has really not been effective. Oh, and there was Vegas, which is a video.
Sony Vegas.
Yeah, Sony Vegas, which
Lots of people use that.
For video editing. I have a program that I still kind of occasionally use to do something quick and dirty with a video. Making videos,
not dirty videos.
Yeah, not dirty videos. So get your mind out of the gutter, Space Cadets. And so I'm just really surprised. Hopefully they can take the product in a new direction, and let's see what they're going to go with and how they're going to manage with it. So
sorry, I didn't mean to make that noise.
No, it's all right.
Reaching for a beverage.
Reaching for snacks.
All the ice is gone.
So I guess that I can't think of anything else. I know there was something else I wanted to tell people out there.
You can figure it out, and if we have time later.
Okay. Well, why don't we do this? It is time to go to break. And
pick up the guest.
And get the guest. So don't go anywhere. And as I click this and... Hi, I'm Spaceboy, and you're listening to the SBU Network. Well, this is the part where Sorlana would start talking about our guest.
You got me flustered now. I've got to get to that.
This is exactly what we talk about all the time.
We've got a new system now, so we've got a new external network hard drive that I'm trying to learn. Here we go. Let's see. Have you got it open?
Do I? Does it matter? You could still open it. This is now.
We
Jeff,
normally don't do this,
Jeff. This is exactly what you expect from a fine program such as Spaceboy Universe, and
where the hosts are married.
So that's what we interject.
You're gonna have to close it.
I just closed it. Yeah.
God dang it.
And what? I just closed it.
Can I read it from his website
Well,
instead?
I guess yes, if you've got that there.
Jeff McCall is an English singer, songwriter, producer, creating a retro electronic pop sound that could have been written alongside the synthesizer bands of the 1980s. This new music has shades of more modern influences, but will still remind you of that epic period of musical creativity. He is literally a one-man electropop band writing, recording, and producing all of his own work. Jeff creates catchy choruses on a dance beat lifted straight from the 80s. You could say he's leading his own addictive retro synthpop revival. Please welcome, all the way from England and 3 a.m. in the morning, Jeff McCall.
Good evening, or good morning over here, but good evening to you over there. So.
As we like to say, howdy, Jeff. How are you this wonderful, fine
howdy from
morning?
Houston.
Yes, howdy from Houston, Space City Central.
I'm great, thanks. Yes, I say I found my second wind, so I'm wide awake at the moment, so I'm okay.
Well, great. Jeff, I got to start this off is that I have like Facebook. Every day is kind of like, okay, check in on my friends, check on what's going on, and all of a sudden I see this really cool poppy video that comes up, and I see things from my childhood, of videos that are in it, and I was just real catchy. Take it or leave it is what's the song is what came up. And I listened to it, and then you were doing this great advertising program to promote your new album, which is Nightlife, and I got my own copy on CD, and love it because it's something I can hold in my hand versus a digital download, and and that's what got me interested in you in the first place, and of course, as we were talking during the break, I was telling you about how it was like we were planning out who we're going to get to come in and do interviews and things to come up and storylines and all that great stuff. And I said, you know what I want for my birthday is I want to talk to a musician. And I found this guy. His name's Jeff McCall, and he's got a great sound. It reminds me of
yourself.
Well, it does. There was a lot because I saw some of this equipment in the background in your videos, and I thought, yeah, I've got that, or oh, that's cool, And then the music reminded me of Roxy Music and Talk, and there's other like Heaven 17, but we can go down that list a little bit later. But it's a period in my history when it comes to music that when I hear it, it just makes me feel like the fountain of youth kind of way. And so Jeff, let's talk about I want to know a little bit more about the presentation you put out there on the internet to draw attention to Nightlife. So let's start there. Okay.
Well, I can't own, I've got to own up and say it wasn't my idea. I come across this site on the internet where a guy was helping support independent musicians, and he's got quite a sort of like a new approach to things. Because before I tried that, I was just sort of following the same line as everyone else, like trying to give away a free song in exchange for somebody's email to get them on my mailing list so I can keep them up to speed with what I was doing. And this sort of like new approach is really sort of taking account of streaming services and the fact that because of the streaming services, music doesn't necessarily have the same value that it did before. So people generally don't buy music now because they need to. They buy music because they want to support an artist. Mm-hmm. And so that was why I thought, well, the best thing to do with this was give it a try and see if it worked for me. And so I set the site up to create this experience. So at the same time that I was giving away the music, I was also trying to create a relationship with people, which obviously is very difficult online when you're not having sort of face-to-face or one-to-one communication. So I've got a 12-day experience where I've added a couple of videos each day. Sometimes I talk about how I create my music. Sometimes I sort of add little bits and pieces of about me, and then also there's a video that talks about the particular song of the day and where the inspiration come from and what the lyrics mean, or what the lyrics mean to me anyway, because I know sometimes even though they might mean one thing to me, they might mean something completely different to somebody else. And so the concept really is to take people along this journey, and then hopefully at the end of that sort of 12 days experience, you've built up a relationship, or the people that have followed that have sort of got to know you and got to know me, and quite like me and like the music, and want to support me in the music that I make in the future.
That's a great idea, doing videos on what inspired you to this particular song, and that's a really great idea.
It was a great, you're doing it, it's not like you're just plopping it down like a
okay, here you deal with it.
Like binge watching for a Netflix kind of show kind of situation. You kind of like paste it out and to give the I guess the listener and the watcher, if you will, a chance to digest little chunks of what you're all about and your music that you're presenting. And I thought it was quite effective because like I said initially, I'm scrolling down, you see things on Facebook that are automatically playing, and then I come across the video and I think, oh, there's some cool stuff, and then I check it out and I was like, wow, that's some great music. I like that, and it just kind of went down from there. I kind of went down the rabbit hole, and it, so to speak, because it was kind of like that, and it was really enjoyable, and in the experience of like looking forward to, okay, what's Jeff going to offer today, or what is he going to talk about, and so I found it really an effective way, because as an indie artist myself, that I do my own music, it is a challenge these days to effectively market your music and get it out there, and it's you can put it out there and like the Spotify and the iTunes and then just different things of trying to get the music out there, and then of course the part where you're networking, it gets hard. You have to really, it's a full-time job.
Certainly, yeah.
But you went through this new process, and in this process, how would you say effective it's been for you? I mean, were you able to get new people and get them to recognize the spotlight you're in?
Well, it's quite interesting actually, because there's two sort of like channels that I'm using to introduce people to the experience. One of them's on Facebook, using sort of Facebook advertising by video ads, and that's really apart from sort of like showing the ad and trying to come up with a good advert that's going to encourage people to go to the sign up page, I don't really have much communication with those people until they are actually sort of start the experience. Mm-hmm. But the other channel that I'm using is Twitter. And the nice thing about that is that everybody that joins the experience from Twitter, I would have had a one-to-one conversation with beforehand. So everybody that sort of joins from that point of view, I already know, and they already know me a little bit. And that's what I really like about this approach, that it's not a faceless approach. It's that you are making friends and meeting people and having a conversation, telling about the music, finding people, first off that really like that type of music before you introduce them to it. And then if they hear a song and they like it, then I tell them about the experience, and generally they'll then sign up and join the list and join my community. So so it's quite a nice approach.
Have you, since you've done this, has there been some interesting people you've met along the way, new networking, people you would not have met otherwise? Oh yeah,
I've met. Part of the reason that I went to this gig in Sheffield on Friday was through contacts that I met on Twitter. I've also most of the radio plays that I've had of my tracks so far have been because I've met the DJs on Twitter using the approach that I'm using, and you meet some really interesting people as well. People from all walks of life, worldwide. Lots of other musicians as well, so there's opportunities for collaborations in the future and that sort of thing. So it's been really good from in many different levels.
So your journey started back in the 80s.
Long time ago.
Well, like I said, I just turned 48, so I feel the distance it is back to that point. And tell us a little about your early journey as it started off in the early 80s.
To begin with, I I was I suppose I was interested in music. I always was aware that I didn't, that my voice was, my singing voice was pretty good, because of things that I'd done at school, school productions and things like that, and comments that people had made. But it wasn't something that was really at the top of my list to get involved with. Because when I was a kid, all I dreamed about was actually getting involved in flying and becoming a pilot. So eventually I won't go into all the sordid details of what happened, but eventually I got to the stage where that was no longer an option from a particular point. And I don't remember exactly what triggered it, but I just decided, I fancied getting into singing again. And we used to have this music newspaper in the UK around that time called The Melody Maker. And in the back pages of The Melody Maker were all adverts from different bands looking for musicians and singers and that for auditions. So it was quite easy at that time to actually find other bands and go to auditions and things like that. So that's what I started to do. And I sang with a few different bands that never really, like most, a lot of bands, they don't sort of like hang around for too long, for one reason or another, musical differences or people don't get on or whatever, it lasts for a few months and then all fizzles out. And then I got introduced to a guy called Adam, who was a friend of my brother's, and he had this band. He was looking for a singer, and I went and auditioned with them, and I was already starting at that point to get into the 80s music scene. I was was and still am a big Ultravox fan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And then I got invited to go and see Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark with Adam, and we sort of got on in the space of going to that gig. We become friends, and he asked me to come and audition for the band, and then so I ended up joining them as a singer. The band was called Malicieux Garde, and I should say Adam is the cousin of Vince Clarke, who was so Vince. So Adam was involved when Depeche Mode was sort of like set up initially. So he had a lot of background from that and was writing some good material. So it seemed like the perfect opportunity. And we ended up playing together for about 7 years, and did everything that we could possibly do to try and get a recording contract at that time. But it was just one of those things where you just need a lucky break, and we didn't get it. So that was really where the 80s music and the synth pop stuff, that was really imprinted in my brain, and it hasn't gone away. So
you and me both, my friend. You and me both. So I guess you started singing, but was there? I mean, did the singing go hand in hand with maybe playing an instrument, or how did that work out for you?
I've always sort of dabbled with instruments, but I don't know whether it's sort of part of the fact that being a singer, I can sort of like get away without having to learn an instrument properly, or I don't know. It might be that I just haven't got the discipline. I mean, I've taken guitar lessons, and I've tried to get a bit better on instruments, and I play keyboards, but I wouldn't say that I play well enough to, certainly not well enough to perform, at any great stretch, but well enough to record and to write. I was just from that point in the band. I'd never touched a keyboard. I was just the singer, and it wasn't until I left Malicieux Garde and started performing solo that I realised that I needed to be able to play an instrument, because it just looked a little bit better than you just standing there on your own on stage if you had a keyboard with you or if you had a guitar. So I sort of like tried to to improve enough just to get by. But no, I wouldn't call myself a musician as far as instruments are concerned.
Mm-hmm. I've often referred to myself as not the musician, but more of the entertainer. And because even though I've been, I wouldn't say I'm classically trained, but I mean, I can read music. I can, my story real quick here is that I started playing violin when I was 4. And, and then I kind of gravitated away. And then my dad gave me a guitar, which was really cool. And then by 1980, my mom brought me a little keyboard. And that was it for me. I was like, that was really cool. And then, of course, a few years down the line from there, I discovered the Pet Shop Boys. And they were like, since that time when I've discovered them, they've been like my band of choice, for all my music that's been, that I've been inspired by and all that good stuff. And so, and I'm trying to struggle for a train of thought here.
Well, we got to meet them.
Yeah.
And, did you?
Yes,
yeah,
we did.
They came to Austin in 2014, and we bought the VIP package where they sign your little tag and you just shake their hands. And this is his musical idols, and I'm like, I like them too, but I was not invested in this the way he is. Yeah. And so he's like, and I just walked up and like, just being a good Southern girl that I am, I'm like, well, hey Chris, hi Neil, welcome to Austin. It's like I've known him forever.
Yeah, and then of course me, I went first. I said, I said, hello, how y'all doing? And fine. And then they asked me how I was doing. I said, just not even thinking about it, I said, I'm doing absolutely fabulous. And of course, it's one of their songs that they've written, and
for the same TV show.
Of course, Neil kind of laughed a little bit about it in his own way, and then I think we saw a smile from Chris, which Chris seldom smiles.
I can't believe Chris talked.
Yeah, so
you never see Chris talk.
And then Sirlana goes into this like real laid back, like, hey, how you been?
They're just people.
You want to come over? We're having, potluck tonight, kind of thing. And just average person, and it really was
blew him away.
It was. I was more blown away by her because it was like, I'm having a surreal moment meeting my idols, and then she to just naturally just be calm about the whole thing. So, which leads me to another question: have you had a chance to meet any of your musical idols, or been in touch with any of them?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I had a similar experience a few weeks ago. I got the opportunity to go and see Gary Newman rehearse
Gary Newman.
For his tour. So I was in this rehearsal studio with him and his band for about 4 hours. So it was like having your own sort of like personal gig. And he was such a nice, down-to-earth guy, sort of like was prepared to give up so much time,
So he's not an android.
No, he was. I was really surprised actually, because he was really sort of relaxed, and there was no sort of sense of rushing you to, do you want stuff signed? I'll do that, and then
get on with it.
Yeah, and it was great. I really enjoyed it, and it's sort of like my admiration for him as an artist and a person, obviously, it's grown from that as well. So yeah,
that's very cool. I love his stuff. I like his original old stuff, like Our Friends Electric, and that kind of thing.
Cars, the classic one.
Of course, that's the classic one. And
yeah.
Metal.
Metal is, yeah.
He got on stage with Trent Reznor and did a really kick-ass version of Metal with that heavy bass, gritty bass guitar and the keyboard. So.
Well, Trent Reznor, is
Nine Inch Nails.
Nine Inch Nails.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he wrote, or correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe I'm right. American Horror Story is a program here in America. He's done the theme for that particular show, and it shows how his music has got that gritty, great feel for a show like that. So, that's awesome. We've enjoyed Gary Newman ourselves, and
we did see Erasure in concert.
Oh, that was another
fairly,
right
here in Houston, and what's the lead guy's name?
Andy Bell.
Yes, Andy Bell.
He
Andy
took
Bell.
his trousers off.
And
he just whipped them off, and
had
he took his pants off.
sparkly shorts underneath.
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Well,
I was not prepared for that.
I was fortunate enough to see Erasure's first ever concert in London.
Oh, wow.
Because of the connection with Adam, and so I've met him a couple of times and spoken to Vince, a few times, and Vince is quite a nice guy, actually, really sort of down to earth, very helpful. Always sort of good with advice, when he's been asked and stuff. So
I watched an interesting documentary with him, and he's got, I guess, he's got this, I don't know, it's like a cottage or some kind of house that strictly has all the keyboard stuff that he's picked up along the way, and he was talking about how he likes to sample certain things here and there, and over the years I've recognized a lot of the things that he samples. Even owned a Casio keyboard that he's used like a loop from when they did Respect, and I guess Chorus was the name of the album. But the man is just, I can imagine him being really down to earth, because in the interview he's very calm, very relaxed. And then, of course, when we got to see him, he was very kind of relaxed during the concert.
He's like Chris.
He's like Chris, very calm, straight, and narrow, and does this thing. And then when he played guitar, it was really awesome. So in this set they did when we saw them recently, and that was really cool, because I can imagine if Chris had whipped out a guitar, but we've seen Neil pull out the guitar for "You Only Love Me When You're Drunk."
Well, I've seen them parody the Pet Shop Boys on some program over there in England, and where Chris just has to hit one key on a computer, and yeah. I like that was funny. Because all their stuff is, pre-programmed and for the show, and it's all ready. Yeah. I guess he does play a little keyboard live, but the rest of it's like on an Apple, and it's just ready to go. Well,
it's when you deal with performances like Erasure, and
that's so synth heavy,
and Pet Shop Boys too, because they're more about the presentation.
Oh, the show.
The
and
show
they had dancers,
like,
they had lasers, they had lights, they had a backdrop that was freaking awesome.
I mean, with Erasure, they had the two backup singers, and of course, Andy was flamboyant in the best entertainment, fantastical way.
Sense of the word.
Yes, and and that is just a fine example of the synth pop that I know that you and I have grown to love over the many years of from the 80s, and so what I want to do right now is, I'm a little early for a break, but I want to go ahead and take the break now, because I want to get into more of the the technical items that we have that as musicians, the equipment and all that good stuff. So let me cue up everything here like we're a professional broadcaster, and let's see here. So there we go. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to Spaceboy Universe on the PAUK Radio Network.
Welcome. Electric 100. Electric 100. 100.
All right, we're back. Tonight, our guest is Jeff McCall, musician extraordinaire and just a real cool, down-to-earth guy. As I like to say, he's a righteous dude. So,
Ferris Bueller.
And, Jeff, I want to transition into the mechanics, if you will, of being a musician and, playing the music and all that good stuff. I recently saw a video of you, fairly recently, and you're working on trying to do, I guess, a gig live. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's what the music is all about. The performing, that's what draws me into it. Really, it's the buzz of the live performance, and I suppose it's just because of the fact you're standing there and you have the attention of a group of people, and there's something sort of like, I suppose it's not for everybody, but for me, I get a bit of a buzz out of that. And perhaps I like being the centre of attention for short periods of time or whatever. So, I mean, the next step...
It's a different energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the next step for, producing this music and have people listening to it was also to perform it live. But then we've got the problem where, with electronic music, it's all programmed, it's being produced by sort of, software and computers. How do you make that interesting for an audience to watch? Because obviously I'm conscious of the fact that, I'm a singer. I can't just sort of stand up there behind a microphone stand and press a button and let the music play and then sing. That just really wouldn't be that interesting. So I've been sort of trying to investigate, trying to come up with an approach that's something a bit different and a bit unusual, and also, taking the opportunity to watch other bands to see how they overcome those issues and what they do and what sort of equipment they use. Because obviously, there's plenty of equipment that you can use, but you need a solution that's quite resilient, that's not going to let you down. You want to be sure when you turn up at a gig and you hit the play button or whatever that the stuff's actually going to work. So, that's one of the things that you've got to consider as well. So that's the sort of stage I'm at the moment, and I'm sort of, building up, putting a rig together and getting ready to start performing, hopefully beginning of next year.
Well, that's very cool. I'm refreshed to know that I'm not the only one who's thinking in those terms, in the sense that for many years I've recognized that I've done all the music production stuff and I've got a ton of music, and the only thing I haven't really ever done is perform live as Space Boy. And and I know the buzz behind getting in front of an audience, because in school I was in drama. So I did theater arts and did many plays, and there's an excitement there. Even with doing this show, Space Boy Universe, there is an excitement level there because we do this live.
Sure,
the audience is listening live, Otherwise, we could have done this.
They've all said hi to you
in the morning
in chat, and some have say they love your accent, just so you know.
Yeah, so
there are people listening.
So the buzz there is that, I recognize, okay, I have sat down myself, mapped out, okay, what can I do here? What can I do there to do a live performance? And with music, that is, and I have also gone. When we kind of talked during the break about different things, but also going back to the Pet Shop Boys thing. When we went to see the Pet Shop Boys, I'm focused on them performing, and then I'm looking at the side where you've got all these guys, running the equipment, the computers, and all that, and seeing how they're doing, and then of course with the Pet Shop Boys, they've got the screen behind them that's doing videos, and that's really cool because it adds to the performance. And then they bring out props, and so it's that whole theatrics, So combining what I remember as being in theater arts, for me to do a show, I'd want to do something theatric beyond pushing the button, so to speak. And letting people thinking, okay, I'm pushing a button, and that's all I'm doing. I want something where when the audience comes, it's like, oh, that's really great, or wow, that was a fantastic video that went along with the video music. So I can imagine, as your mind is racing through your research and everything, you're probably encountering some of the same things of looking forward to a performance.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's first sort of. These ideas first emerged. I mentioned that I got to go and see Gary Newman rehearse, so I was quite interested to see what he was doing, and I got to talk to his keyboard player and look at the equipment that they were using. And he uses like a pre-programmed approach, so the whole set, once they start playing the set, it runs non-stop right through to the end. All the gaps between the tracks are all preset, but the difference for him is obviously he's got a live drummer and he's got the bass player and guitarist and the keyboard player, so the amount of stuff that's actually playing being played by the computer is quite minimal. But that concept of having a timed set so that once you start exactly where that's going to end, I thought was quite an interesting one, because a lot of the time when you're booked to play for a particularly rigid time scale, so that they can fit all the bands in with the changeover times and everything. So if you get a 30-minute slot, you don't want to run over because the next band on's not going to be pleased because you're eating into their time.
Right.
So that was one of the things that I was looking at. So I thought, well, if I'm going to run a system like that, then I don't really want to hit the play button and leave everything, because I need to make it visual as well as the singing. So I decided to try and incorporate sort of like a DJ approach, because my music is dance music, and hopefully when people hear it live they will be dancing. I'm going to mix the tracks together like a DJ. So what I've done is I've extended the start and the end of each song and created loops for those parts, so that when one song finishes, it basically goes into an automatic loop using the system that I've got. So the same 4 bars will play over and over and over again until I move on to the next section or tell it to stop. So while that's looping, I can then start looping the first 4 bars of the next song, align the tempos, and then fade one song into another. So the music that actually doesn't stop. One song basically just carries straight into another song, in the same way as if you were in a club, the DJs are mixing all the dance tracks. And then so visually I can do that in a way that, to make it look as if I'm doing something, and I can then make adjustments to the sound as well by using sort of filters and beat repeats and things that I can vary things so that I can make it different every time. So even though it's a straight drum beat, I can add a beat repeat or bring in a high pass or a low pass filter to change how it sounds. To just to spice things up a little bit, if you like. And then what I've done is sort of incorporated in some of the songs, making sure that at least for a couple of songs in the set, I will play a small passage on the keyboard, perhaps just the solo in the middle 8 or something like that. The bits when I'm not singing, so it's a little bit easier for me to do. And so yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. That's what I'm sort of like aiming to do. So I'm sort of working, trying to align all the tempos. How I'm gonna where I've got 2 songs that are quite different tempos or different keys, how I'm going to be able to mix those in so that there's a smooth transition and it looks professional or sounds professional.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Well, the plus side there is that the equipment you're using I guess you could kind of think of it that your performance would not be the same if somebody came back to see you another time. There'd be slight variations of the transitions and kind of make it still fresh to see you a second, third, fourth time, depending on, the rabid fanatic fan that that you're building. But
and with the amount of material that I've got as well, it's quite easy for me to chop and change things. I mean, that was another thing. So I keep going back to Gary Newman, but I learned so much from watching that. For his tour, he has 6 different sets. So every night he'll do a different set. So that means if you go and see 6 concerts of his, you'll see a sequence of 6 completely different songs, which I thought was a really interesting idea as well.
I imagine it keeps it fresh,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
For the artist and for the listener, because you can come in if you depending on the night of the show or whatever, you get a different type of show. And then for I guess as the musician, I guess we've all had those songs that we've heard over and over and over as we're crafting music, to get it done. That it can get a little stale, even though it's a great song to us, it's like, okay, I have listened to this more than I want to listen to it, so kind of, I've been in situations like that with Sirlana, like I've driven her nuts.
Oh, while he's crafting a song, and he'll, especially if he includes a sample of his voice, you don't really sing, but every now and then you'll put a loop of yourself in, and you had one thing where you're saying one word over and over, trying to get it, like, I don't know what you're trying to get out of this one thing, but I was like, because we were living in a small apartment at the time, I'm like, God, is there just somewhere for me to go to get away from this?
Well, this brings up a good topic of our significant others, how we abuse them when it comes to our music. And, I'll let you go first, Jeff.
Well, I've learnt the boundaries. That's probably the best way to
Somebody hasn't over here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I will sort of wait more or less till I've got sort of like a finished thing before I'll ask Janet's opinion on things. Because she's, she's obviously very supportive of what I'm doing, but not necessarily as interested in the music as I am. Mm-hmm. So, I have to sort of like, don't use up too much of the money in the bank.
So she's a finance.
Well, no, I mean, there's a certain number of credits that I can use to get her opinion, and I need to spread them out.
Oh. Well, I mean, you're definitely in bankruptcy over there. So
yeah, I think sometimes she described me like Father Ted when him and Dougal were
just play the bleeping note.
Yes.
Who's that sax solo?
So,
love Father Ted.
Yeah, I guess we were talking. There was one night I was writing this song for an internet radio show.
It was an important thing you were doing.
It was very important at the time, and I wanted to, and I had something good, but it wasn't great, and it was lacking something, and so that's when I went into the bedroom and said, "Hey, come here, I want you to listen to this."
Hold me out of bed.
Hold her out of bed.
Warm, comfy bed.
First off,
I fought it. I said, no, I don't want to.
Yeah, she was giving me the evil eye. And so it kind of like that scene from Invasion of the Body Snatchers with Sutherland.
Doing
the pointing, kind of like, get out of the bedroom. and so eventually I pulled her in, and she, was able to give me some very valuable advice.
When he drags me into this, wherever he's doing his thing, when he drags me in there, boy, do I let him have it, because I'm annoyed with the criticism. Most of the time, I'll try to be diplomatic and I'll dance around like, you drug me in here, so I am going to destroy you.
So, long story short is that she gave me some good advice.
It was actually good advice.
And the song has been a big hit.
I said, more guitars, more real guitars.
Yeah, more real. No fakey. Real guitars.
No reason guitars.
And it's not like I don't know how to play guitar. I do. It's just, it's
second nature to do it all in Reason.
Yeah,
for you.
Which I use Reason, and I noticed that you've used Reason too.
Yes. Yeah.
And I wanted to segue into this is that tell me about your Reason experience and let our audience know a little bit about what Reason is.
Well, Reason is what's called a digital audio workstation, or DAW, and basically it's like a software version of a recording studio. And Reason is quite unusual in compared to other similar softwares in the fact that it actually visually depicts a recording studio on the screen. So when you're using instruments, you actually have a rack of sort of knobs and buttons to press and with the mouse and set up. So it's more I find it a bit more intuitive, because the fact it's like you're actually in a studio and you're twiddling buttons and knobs and things, which obviously from back in the 80s before this stuff came about, that's what we were doing. So it was a sort of natural transition. But it's basically split into 3 parts, I suppose. I think I tried to describe it on one of the videos in the experience. The fact that most people, if they go into a recording studio, they would expect to see a mixing desk, which is the big desk with all the knobs and sliders that sets the volume levels, and with all the meters and the flashing lights on. Also like a tape recorder or some means of actually recording the music. And then thirdly, these big racks of processors and instruments that you use jump leads to interconnect them and everything. And that's basically the way that Propeller-Head Reason is set up. You've got three separate windows, one for the mixing desk, which imitates quite a famous mixing desk that's been used in lots of studios called an SSL desk. Don't ask me what SSL stands for, I don't know. Then another screen that actually depicts all the racks of instruments and processors. And finally the sequencer screen, which is almost like a sort of tape recorder type thing, really, where you can put all the notes and record the audio that make up the song. So basically that's what Propeller-Head Reason is, if that makes any sense.
No, it's perfectly spot on. I know that I've used Reason since it first came out. Originally, Spaceboy Music, I used Sony Acid. Well, it was not Sony at the time, but Acid. I used Fruity Loops. I used various programs to like cut loops and kind of put them together, and then whatever fine details I needed, I'd put a keyboard lead, or I'd be able to play that out. Yeah. But when I came across Reason, it was like, wow, this is really cool. You've got these rack modules that they look like you would see in a studio, and then what was cool is you could flip them to see the back, where you could see the patch cords, and that was really cool. And it was very intuitive, like you said. Kind of didn't even have to think about it; it just came natural to work with it. Now I'm on Reason 10.0, I believe is the latest Reason, and it is just a phenomenal work tool, and kind of like on the way to getting from when I first started to there, they came out with another program called Record, and I was like, why did they just put this all together into one package? And then not too long after that, I think they heard the people and put it all together, and so it's been a great way to produce music. Whether I can bring in my live stuff, and I can quantize it, whereas in the past I couldn't. And that's really a cool feature. And even with vocals, to be able to individually pitch monitor and all that good stuff. And it's a great tool for vocals, because I'm not the greatest vocalist in the world. I mean, I occasionally do sing, but it does give me an edge that I didn't have before, to be able to change up. Maybe I didn't get it on the right tempo or whatever, but it's just a great program, and that's why I wanted to brag a little bit about Reason in this little segment. But I know you use other software. Tell us a little bit about the other pieces of software you use.
Well, I actually started out, the first sequence I used was a program called Cakewalk. I think it's called Sonar now. But the reason I didn't switch over to Reason until they actually incorporated record in it, obviously because being a singer I was recording a lot of vocals, and the earlier versions of Reason you couldn't do that without having a separate program and having to link them together. So since I've switched over to Reason, one of the limitations, the only limitation that with it is it's quite a sort of bulky program, and I know some people do use it live, but I don't know whether I'd be that confident about it working all of the time, like on the road in a live situation. So I took the decision to use a different a DAW for my live work that was specifically designed for that, and it's actually called Live, and it's created by a company called Ableton, and it works in a completely different way to Reason. You can have it set up so that you can use it like a traditional sort of tape recorder type approach, where you start at the beginning of a track and you go right to the end. But they've also got this view called the session view, where you can actually chop a song up into separate little sections and stack them on top of each other, and then you can like run one section into another. So you start at the top and you play each little section one after the other, or you can go back and reorder them, which for the approach that I'm using as well fits in quite nicely with what I want to do. So I'm using Ableton Live for the live performances.
Wow, pretty cool. Now, I've seen your guitar on the back of the wall, and little things.
Oh yeah, I've got a few of them.
Yeah, and I sound like I work for the government, and I'm like, I've opened up your camera and I know what your room looks like. Tell us a little bit about some of the other equipment you have. Tell us the names of the guitars and what you find great to use on a daily basis versus, hey, that's I just use that sparingly. It's got problems, but it works short term. Tell us about your equipment.
Right. Well, at the moment, I've got 5 guitars, 3 electric guitars and 2 acoustic guitars. I've got a traditional steel string acoustic guitar, and then I've got an electro acoustic guitar that I can plug into an amplifier for live work, and that's one of these. That's a guitar that's a bit like the Ovation brand. It's got a plastic round back to it, and then from the electric guitars, I've got a Fender Squier Telecaster. I know I've always been a Telecaster person rather than a Stratocaster person. I can't explain why. It just the telly's just the shape and the sound appeal to me more than the Stratocaster. So I've got a Fender Telecaster, which is a really nice guitar. Then I've got a couple of sort of copies of 2 Gibson guitars. I've got a guitar made by a company called Vintage that's along the lines of Gibson SG, but it's a lot cheaper than a Gibson guitar, but a really nice guitar nonetheless. And I've got a hollow body guitar, which is a copy of, I think it's the ES355 or something like that, but it's the big blues hollow body guitar with the cutouts at the top and bottom. Because since I've since I've got into playing guitar a bit more, I do like. I prefer to play the blues because I'm not playing the guitar to actually perform. I'm playing it for enjoyment. Then I can just sort of like sit there and pick away at some blues licks and stuff. So on the hollow body, it sounds quite nice, and I can pretend I'm BB King or someone like that.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I like the hollow body myself. It just resonates so well, and I think that comes from the fact that when I was a young man playing violin, I just grew to like the sound that resonates out of a hollow body. And so even with the guitar playing jazz and blues, it resonates so well with that kind of body stock. Now, my favorite guitar that I finally got a hold of, I have a Parker Fly. And it's great because the neck is nice and small, which for my fat fingers, I'm able to get my hand around it. And then plus, I have a little extra room up in the front area, so it's not so big to where it rests against me. And so it plays sweet, and I incorporate it in a lot of my music. And of course, I've got one that's I guess it's an Eastwood. Made popular by David Bowie. He played it in a lot of his sets. I've got a classical guitar, and I've got my regular 6-string acoustic. So it sounds like it's like we're living parallel lives here.
I was about to say, are you twins? Are we living twin lives?
No, I do have a few synthesizers, but
can I interview his wife?
I don't have the stock I used to have. I don't really,
dwindled.
with the, it's my production has been more the digital workstation, these days, and it just makes it so easy to put things together in such a short amount of time, or just, I don't have to rush it, but some things just come to me like, okay, I got this great song in my head, and now I just need to, get it all out and put it in Reason. So, but I've kind of gravitated away from that, but going back to the beginning of this hour, or this half hour, when we were talking about preparing for the performance. I feel like I'm always preparing for the performance, and I haven't done it yet, which I admire you when I saw the video that, okay, this is what I'm planning. I've got a goal in mind. I'm going to do it. And more recently with me, it's been like we've gone and done our show, Spaceboy Universe, live out in Comic Palooza, which is kind of like, if you're familiar with the San Diego Comic-Con.
It's just Houston's version.
It's Houston's version, where we've done that here. We have the thing called Maker Faire, where we've done that too, where people build stuff, and that's really cool, and we've done that live.
Yeah, I heard your Maker Faire show. I listened into some of that. It was just really good.
We're not worthy. But yeah, that's great. That so that I feel like since we've done those, it's kind of like, okay, maybe I could inject my music performance into something like this to kind of use it like Stones getting across the river kind of thing, Yeah. And so I'm looking forward to some point in the future doing a Spaceboy music program to put my music out there. And it's people like yourself that gives me hope that, hey, here's a guy that's thinking a lot on the same things that I've thought about, and I'm glad I'm not alone. So on that note, Jeff, it's at the bottom of the hour. Let's take this break. We got more to chat with Jeff McCall, musician.
He's not a magician.
Sorry, tongue tied here.
He's a magician on the keyboard.
Yes, a magician on the keyboard. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Hey, this is Spaceboy, and you're listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU Network.
5-second tone followed by a 1-second pause. 32 minutes, 21 seconds. 32 minutes, 21 seconds. 32
right. A little Space Boy action there. As always, when you turn into the SBU, you're going to get the SBU-M, which is Space Boy music. So our guest tonight, Jeff-mccall, is a musician extraordinaire, as I've been saying. And it's been a great conversation so far. So let's get into some fun stuff. And during the break, audience, I've heard you loud and clear. Sirlana wants to talk. Let's listen to her talk.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about, of course, Space Boy and I are just, we're rabid 80s fan, the synth, keyboard. I fell in love with it during what we called then the new wave, and I guess over in the UK at the same time you were calling it the new romantics, and that was pop culture. It was a whole pop culture. It wasn't just, it was a look like, Boy George's look, Adam Ant's look. Then you had, like Visage, Duran Duran, Spandau Ballet, Flock of Seagulls, as you said, Ultravox. And it was kind of like the second British invasion over here of that music. Yeah. And that's where my gosh, you can put on True by Spandau Ballet and just like, it just gives you warm feelings, things like that. So, well,
when I listen to Roxy music, it just
more than this.
There's 80s music in general, from 80 to 89, but to the true beginning, like Roxy music and Talk and like Ultravox.
No, I like stuff from 80 to 85.
When you hear that music, it's like it's even more. It's concentrated 80s specialness.
But it was largely coming from the UK, that the synth stuff. And but I don't know what it is. And to this day, I've got a huge playlist. I've got a playlist of just new wave things I've put together myself on Spotify. So I've discovered, I guess, what you're doing, kind of backed into retro synth, where like yourself, people are creating new original songs, but it has the retro samples, or maybe it's actual retro keyboards, retro equipment. And I've queued up a bunch of 2-3 hour long mixes of these things on YouTube, and I just love it to death because it's new but it's old. Yeah. So that's kind of why I have an appreciation for what you do with your music. And I'm leading up to something, I promise. And I have discovered on my own through watching someone else's YouTube channel, vaporwave music, which really has blown my mind because there's so much of it and it's so different. So what I'm leading to is, do you have other genres of music that you also enjoy but maybe have leaked in and influenced what you do?
Yeah, I've got probably the one of the broadest musical tastes you can get, really. I mean, there's not much music that I don't listen to. I think the only stuff that I have problems with is rap music. But mostly because for the most part, I can't make out the lyrics. And
modern rap, yes.
I mean, people like Eminem, and Kendrick Lamar, and people like that, you can hear what they're singing about. That's great. But the sort of gangster rap stuff where it's slang as well. I mean, I don't understand the slang and stuff.
We don't understand it either. Probably because we're white, but but the old school hip hop from the 80s is definitely listenable, like LL Cool J and Kool Moe Dee. Of course, Run DMC, but that's more hip hop and not modern rap. But and of course, we did a show about the conspiracy of what happened to rap music. It was deliberate, so I won't get into that. But anyway, we have that same broad thing. Go ahead.
Yeah. So back to your initial question, I suppose. Right from classical music. I mean, my dad was always really interested in classical music and listened to a lot of that. So, and he's into opera. Perhaps I don't listen to as much opera, but I'm certainly, I appreciate classical stuff. I mean, when you listen to, it's amazing when you listen to classical music, you can identify themes and tunes and riffs from modern music, where other more modern artists have listened to it.
That
and then
Night
thought,
at the Proms.
I'll borrow that. So,
Don't you have something over there called Night at the Proms, but it's all over Europe? And they actually did a thing where they had a live full orchestra play live the actual classical piece of music, and then they played the modern songs right next to it, and then they would mash it up live. So you could see that these are actually the same notes, the same chords, the same rhythms. Yeah. I love that. Yeah,
so, I mean, you can get... I think it's important that you do listen to other genres to get inspiration, because if everybody's just listening only to the genre that they're making music in, everything's going to sound the same. Mm-hmm. You know, you need sort of fresh approach. So, you know, to listen to, I mean, I even enjoy, like, you know, I love the Foo Fighters, I love Metallica. So I listen to a lot of heavy rock. And being a singer, I love all the ballad singers, you know, Billy Joel, Michael Bublé, Elton John, you know, all people like that. So I tend to have phases where I'll put certain albums on the phone, and I'll listen to albums over and over again, and then I'll change them out, and it will be a different genre, you know.
I don't know if on Spotify, it's still there. Erasure came over here at some point and went to Nashville, Tennessee, and covered their own music in classic country style, like "Oh L'Amour," and they did the twangy, slow guitar cover.
Yeah,
it was perfect.
It was very good.
It was so perfect.
Well, Midge Ure, who's the lead singer of Ultravox, he's just about to bring out an album where he's worked with a symphony orchestra to reimagine a lot of his songs and completely change them up with an orchestra, rather than just sort of like doing an orchestral version of the current arrangement. He's done all new arrangements and everything. So, you know, I find that sort of thing really interesting. And I remember, I think Erasure have got they brought out a double CD some time ago. I think it was called Two Ring Circus or something like that. And they brought out, one of the CDs was new songs that they'd written, but it was all orchestral accompaniment, so it was all string quartets, and there weren't really any synths on it, and that was absolutely fantastic. It was like string quartets arranged like they would have been arranged if they were synthesizers, but it was you know, violins, violas, and cellos, which was really good.
They also did an album, Other People's Music, and where they've covered other people's music, and it was great too. You know, you can't go wrong. Erasure is really a great group that I don't think gets.
They're still out there.
I mean, they don't get I don't know, from an American standpoint of view. You know, when the '90s came, the DJs killed.
Radio DJs here. Terrestrial radio.
Went to grunge and killed what was wonderful about the '80s music, and so, you know,
and radio.
It's just quite the disappointment that Erasure wasn't, you know, that much out there as much as, say, the Pet Shop Boys, because they're equally as good.
But even the Pet Shop Boys really only had one big hit here. Well, maybe a couple, but
they
still.
Have,
yeah, but that's what they're known for. But the '90s were just awful here in America for music because of radio. And
a lot of it went underground, and that's when you get the techno scene, the rave scene.
That's when I discovered electronica and techno. Thank God. Yeah.
I think it's a similar thing here, really. You know, everything died a bit in the '90s. I mean, we had the Britpop thing with Oasis and you know, some of these Manchester bands and that sort of thing. But I don't think there's been anything since, you know, punk and the '80s sort of electronic stuff to shake things up a bit. Everything, we've gone for a stage now where everything's sort of like musical chewing gum in the charts now. You know, it's there's nothing that really sort of stands out that's exciting. We need something new, need a new sort of a new revolution in music, and somebody to invent a new genre or something, you know.
Well, you know, that concerns me, because I remember reading how the big music conglomerates are using computers to generate, you know, based on music that's popular, to churn out more music based upon
Like a formula.
like a formula,
An equation.
and it gets quite boring, especially here in America. There are artists that are out there that it just recycled. Here's a good one. There was a song that Keisha did. Or Kesha,
whatever that girl is,
and $sign Girl, and then you had Katy Perry, and the two songs were pretty much the same dang song, except Katy Perry doing her version and Dollar Girl doing her version, and so it's really a bummer because a lot of the performers I don't, and that's what. Okay, which brings me back to the indie artists. Why I'm so gun ho about the indie artists, because when I hear an indie artist, I know it's pure. It hasn't been contaminated or corrupted by
the man.
By the man,
the media,
the media, and you hear great stuff from different artists, and that's what excites me about indie artists, and why I feel it's so important for people who love music to support indie artists. And
it's easier for them to get on things like Spotify now, like however it is you're doing it. So
I use a method of TuneCore, which helps me to publish my music out to different things, and it just makes it so easy because now I get music on Amazon and Spotify, iTunes, and and then there's other outlets like SoundCloud that I can upload, and just so easy to get it out there. And of course, you've heard me do some Spaceboy music on my other channel, and so that's been great to DJ my music out there and to put it out there, and that gets uploaded to YouTube. So as a musician, before it was like, oh, I've got to get that deal signed, that contract, and now I don't have to, and I can still remain true to my music. Do you find that true for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, going back to when we was in Malicieux Garde and chasing the dream of signing a recording contract. Looking back on it now, we were basically on the hunt to sign up for slavery, really, for want of a better term. Because if you look at a recording contract now, as you say, you can do so much yourself now with all these tools online and everything. The only thing that a recording contract has to offer is a bank loan, but it's a bank loan with too many strings attached, So why would anybody want to do that now? When you can have complete autonomy and freedom to do what you want and retain ownership of everything you produce as well. And as you say, outside of that as well, the one thing that I like, I think the thing that really is a big plus for independent artists more than label artists is this accessibility. You can actually you won't necessarily have that big a following that you can't get to know the people that follow you and like your music and be friends with them and actually have like a direct relationship. So the fans of your music have contact with the artist. Apart from, say, we've talked about you meeting Pet Shop Boys and me meeting Gary Newman, but that's the exception rather than the rule. With the independent music business, that's going to be more the rule rather than the exception, I think, and that's what I like about it. It's not just about performing the music. It's nice to actually see the people that are enjoying it and get to and get to sort of communicate with them directly. So,
okay. So my next question is, what songs are currently on your playlist? I don't know if you carry is your playlist on a phone or smartphone or whatever device you're carrying. What is your kind of give me an idea of what your playlist looks like right now.
Right. I'll just go through I've just picked my phone up and we'll go through the albums that are on my phone so that you can see the differences. Right. I've got an album by a sort of country folk band called Ashton Lane. That are very good. I've got an album by a band called Precog, which is a synthwave,
I think
dark
I've heard of them.
band. Yeah, they're very good. I've got a couple of albums by Churches, who are a British electropop group. I've got Ultravox's last album, Brilliant, and Midgeur's last album called Breathe. I've got an album by a guy called Frank Music, which I don't think you would have heard of in the States, but if you like synthpop electronic music, Frank Music is excellent. He produced Erasure's last but one album, so not the one that they've just brought out, but the one before that.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a couple of albums by a lady called Laura Mavula, who is very experimental with her music and uses a lot of sort of African type rhythms with, and really good music if you get a chance to hear it. I've got some Gary Newman albums. His most recent album, which is called Savage, and the last album, which is called where is it? Splinter, Songs from a Broken Mind. I've got Thompson Twins singles collection.
Oh, yes.
Have you heard of the Thompson Twins? Yeah.
Oh,
who,
yes.
Who were they?
Lies.
Yeah.
That's it.
Let me just start, got some mashups with them.
In fact, I was just having a conversation about the last song on the movie 16 Candles.
They're the last piece of music you hear.
Yeah, and it was like,
If You Were Here.
Who plays that song?
It's the Thompson Twins.
It was like, no way. And yes.
The Gap, good stuff.
Yeah, good
I know
stuff.
there are more obscure stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a Depeche Mode singles collection.
Mm-hmm.
Good one.
Um,
We're just going to judge you on your playlist.
I've got the Sex Pistols, Never Mind the Bollocks.
Oh, great.
Nirvana, Nevermind. George Michael, Listen Without Prejudice.
Right.
M83.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we know them.
Yeah, I like
Junk. And what else? Getting to the bottom now. I've got St. Vincent. She's an American artist. I've got Michael Jackson's Thriller, Erasure, Tomorrow's World, and I've got Erasure, World Be Gone, which was their latest album, and I've got Slash's album, World on Fire.
That's an eclectic mix.
That's a bit of a mixture there, yeah.
That's a great mix,
I have one playlist, and I just named it Stuff. Because it's like that. It's everything all in one. Because I don't know what I want to listen to or when. I'll just scroll through, just like, okay, that's the one, So I don't even bother labeling. And I have one called "Sorry About Your Taste in Music." That's kind of like the guilty pleasures.
Well, that's a great list there, Jeff. Now, we're getting close to the top of the hour, and I wanted to give this option to you. I know it's late.
I know you're weary.
And you're weary.
I know your plans don't include us.
But gather all your jackets and move it to the exit. And
we're nerds.
Yeah, so, did you want to just stay until the top of the hour and we can let you go? Or do you think you could do about... Okay, perfect. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, if you want to carry on, I'm here and I'm awake. I'm not doing anything tomorrow, so I can spend all day in bed. So
okay.
Oh, you're so lucky. I have to get up at the crack of dawn and go grocery shopping.
Oh, you weren't saying that. Don't listen to her. Yeah, she's trying to play the sympathy card, and I'm just not buying it.
Or I can do curbside. So
yeah, it's another wonderful invention
modern
here.
Invention.
So. Here's a good thing to talk about. You've talked about all these albums. Yeah. Now, I know your recent album, Nightlife.
Yeah.
Did you end up selling all your albums? Are there some copies still out there to purchase?
Oh yeah, no, there's still plenty of copies to purchase. Yeah. So yeah.
So let's get the media part out of the way. So if somebody wanted to get the new Jeff McCall album, Nightlife. How could they go about doing that?
Well, they can sign up for the Nightlife experience, which is what we talked about earlier on, which is 12 days. Basically, they enter their email on a website, and I can give you the address for that. But and then they will receive over 12 days an email with a link to a special web page that will have the videos on that we mentioned, and also the download links to download the tracks, the 10 tracks from the album. And there's also download links for some of my other music as well, including some cover versions of songs that I've done. And that sign up page is at jeff-mccall.com/night-life.
Go ahead and give it one more time.
That's jeff-mccall.com. That's JEFFMCCALL /night-life. And
Cool.
All the information about the experience is on that page, and there's a little video of me saying hello, thanks for visiting, and there's a box to enter an email address, and as soon as you put your email in there, you'll get an email from me back in your inbox.
And Solana just did you an ace by putting that on our chat window, so all the Space Cadets can check that
great.
out. So,
Thanks very much.
Definitely. Like I said, we like to support the indie artists, and I am true to what I say. So, and if somebody wanted to reach out to you, social media, how do they do that, Jeff?
I'm on all the channels. So on Twitter and Facebook, I'm on as Jeff McCall Music, and it's a bit more difficult on YouTube and SoundCloud and things like that, because the addresses are so weird. So the best thing to do really would be to go to my main website, jeff-mccallmusic.com, and then all the links to my social media are on the About page on my website, and on the header there's the little icons that you can click on to go to those pages as well. So everything's sort of located in there on that page, and there's listings for the tracks that I've released and where people can get them from if they want them as well.
So one-stop shopping for all.
Yes.
Cool.
We try to please make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, I know it can be difficult, especially running the thing that we do. Social media is like
I'm way behind sometimes.
We've actually have a program called Hootsuite that helps us manage our delivery of just to all the social media. Social media is important to get your word out, but unless you don't have an edge into it, and Hootsuite definitely gives us that edge to get that information out. It's a daunting task.
I actually have a question for Jeff from the chat, which happens to be my sister. She wants to know if you've seen the film 24-Hour Party People, which is about the beginnings of the music scene in Manchester.
It doesn't ring a bell. I might have done, but I don't. That title doesn't ring a bell. I've seen some sort of like dramas about Factory Records, which was the sort of main label. The guy that ran the label there, he had the nightclub, the Factory in Manchester. But I think that's probably a different film.
And another one of our Space Cadets said they just went to your site and signed up.
Oh, that's great. Welcome. Drop me an email. The first email that goes out, I try and encourage people to actually get in touch with me, to actually, start that conversation going. So please feel free to email me and just say hello and who you are and everything, and I will get back to you. I do. I don't ignore any emails, and I will reply to everything. So
that was from our Space Cadet Gene. He said you're a cool guy. And
once again, you are a righteous dude, because like I said, as soon as I got connected with the experience, I sent you an email, and you responded in kind, and it was like, oh, that was really nice of him, and so that, I think it was that hey, well, I wonder if we can get him on Spaceboy Universe, and sure enough, I got you on. So it's been a great evening. So what we're going to do is take a top of the hour break, and we'll continue to talk with you, and kind of an open forum this next hour. Where we go, we will talk about the 6 different topics of the universe that we normally talk about. I know
we're going to go outside of music.
I know there's a little nerd in you, because I've seen some of your shirts. I know.
Oh,
you,
yeah, definitely.
I know you're a Star Wars fan.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so we could definitely talk about that. But
I've got a new Star Wars shirt on at the moment, actually.
See, like I said, I've been watching you through your camera, sir.
That's just creepy, okay?
Yeah. So anyway,
don't creep him out.
I'm trying not to.
Scare him.
I even sound like a fanboy right now. So.
Oh, I have been fangirling over his accent, but I didn't want to sound like a dork. So.
Oh, anyway, we know that you.
We don't get out much. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Jeff. We don't leave the country. Nothing.
So let's go into Breakland, and when we come back, we'll talk topic roulette with Jeff McCall. So don't go anywhere. Hey, this is Spaceboy, and you're listening to the PAUK Radio Network. All right, a little Space Boy music there. Just to update the Space Cadets, yes, I'm still working towards the next Space Boy album. It's going to be the end of the beginning. And that is the title of the next album, and hopefully soon. And then, of course, I'm writing some Christmas music, and hopefully if it becomes a full album, it'll be...
bold, writing original Christmas music.
It's called Ty's Family Christmas. And so, listener. So I like to get our listeners involved. So switching gears, going back. Oh, well, first off, before I do, spaceboymusic.com. Go check it out. That's where all the music is. If you want to check it out, go there. So, Jeff, this is where we go into, as they say, Jeopardy's final daily double.
Final Jeopardy?
Yeah, Final Jeopardy. And where we pull topics from our universe and kind of quiz you and see what your...
Pop culture first?
Well, do you have a pop culture?
No, I don't know. I'm sitting here in my Deadpool jacket.
So, obviously, I've seen enough of your videos to know that you're a Star Wars person.
Oh, yeah.
And so tell us, are you excited about the next Star Wars movie coming out?
Oh, yeah, always.
Duh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's what comes out 14th of December, isn't it, here? I think it's 14th.
Less than a month away.
Yeah. And then we got to wait another year for the next one. It's but I hear that they're signed the contracts for making the next 3 episodes now.
Yes, I've heard that too. I haven't heard if it's
How
going.
long can that story go on?
Well, these books and all that have been out there before the Disney acquisition.
I didn't see the last new one either because I hate to admit this, I'm kind of over Star Wars.
Okay, don't listen to her on this one. This is the part where you can start following your nails if she starts talking that way.
Although, Jeff, we were married at the Star Trek experience.
Jeff, she does know the difference between wars and Trek.
Yes. We were married at the Star Trek experience in Las Vegas when it was there. It's gone now, on the bridge of the Enterprise D with a female Klingon there. So
and a Captain Picard lookalike.
That's our nerd crad right there.
Yeah, so there we crossed our we dropped the mic, so to speak. So, and so I'm excited. I grew up. Star Wars came out when I was a kid.
Same here.
And
saw it in theaters.
Yeah,
all 3.
And very exciting stuff. Which at that time, originally Star Trek was going to go back to TV, and they thought, oh, this is looking. Maybe we should do a movie. But that's, I guess, Star Wars holds something in our hearts because it brought the sci-fi to a new epic level that we hadn't experienced before. Because
Picard was my first crush on an older man.
Once again, we're talking about Star Wars right now.
I don't care.
And so, so tell us about your feelings on Star Wars and
what does it mean to you?
What does it mean to you?
Well, I remember when the first Star Wars film came out, right? The place to see all the new releases before we got multiplexes and everything, where you had one screen at one cinema, which was probably it's going back some time now. The place to see new movies when they came out was Leicester Square in London, and my older brother used to work in London and in the West End in a hardware shop, and somebody gave him 2 tickets to see the opening of Star Wars at the Odeon Leicester Square. Mm-hmm. And so he rang up to let me know that he'd got these tickets. So when I finished school, I had to get on the train to go up to London to meet him, and we watched Star Wars when the first week that it came out, the very episode 4. So that was a big memory. And then the games that followed on from that, the computer games, because I think that's probably why Star Wars was so successful, because it came out at that time when the computer games were just starting to tie into films and things. So you not only could you see the film, you could fly the starfighter and try and shoot down all the Empire's ships and stuff. So I remember I spent hours on the early wireframe graphic computer games.
But that was so cool, sitting down and then you flew the X-wing, and then you hear Obi-Wan Kenobi use the Force, Luke. So that was pretty exciting. Now, it's interesting you bring up games because we can clearly segue back into this and then go back there. But did you have any kind of home gaming system when you were young?
Only PC. I've never really got into consoles, but because I was so into the flying, I used to spend all my time with flight simulators.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so it was Microsoft Flight Simulator and all the jet fighter things like F-16 Falcon and the F-15 simulators and all those sort of things. So that was gaming for me. That was what I was into, flight sims, So yeah, but only on a PC. I never had console versions or whatever. So yeah.
So you, since you've gone into the area of technology, would you say you're more of a PC person or a Mac person?
Oh, I'm always PC.
Thank God! You can be our friend.
I bought an iPad a couple of years ago, and that's the first time I've had anything from Apple, and that was purely to use for sort of like the lyric apps and things like that, and some of the music production apps are quite nice on it. So when you're going away on holiday, you can actually write songs and sketch ideas out on an iPad, but that's the only reason I've got that. I've always been Android and PC. I've never fallen foul of Apple's marker tree and stuff. So.
Well, I like
iPhones. That's it.
I like my iPhone. I've had an iPad, and they're great in what they do, but as far as going through my daily stuff, PC has been the way I've gone for many years, and so I have to agree with you on that. Plus, my day job, I'm an IT guy, so I work on Windows, so I'm all like, buy Windows. It's easy to fix, and it's going to break down on you, and it keeps me in business.
I go back way before Windows. I mean,
I was DOS.
I still hanker back to MS-DOS.
See, DOS?
Because you could type in something, and you could you didn't have to worry about these blue screens of death and stuff that you get now from Windows. And
Same here.
The software's got so bulky now. I think the programming, a lot of the programmers have got so lazy because they're utilising all the speed of the computers. Whereas in the MS-DOS days, when you didn't have hard drives on some computers, I remember having to load the operating system up on the big 5 and
quarter
5.25 inch floppies. Because if you just switched the computer on, nothing would happen until you loaded the 2 drives in. So I sometimes I miss those days. I think.
Yeah, we watch this gentleman. We watch 2 gentlemen. One, the first gentleman on YouTube. Is the 8-bit guy, and
he's here in Texas.
He's here in Texas, and he does a lot of videos,
retro
stuff and PCs.
Yeah.
And there's another gentleman we love that's probably closer to your side of the pond, Techmoan, and he talks about a lot of technology that and
it's all kind of retro, and it fits in with kind of like the retro synth.
I've seen his videos, because he does a lot of good reviews on video cameras and things like that as well, doesn't he? Yeah, very
fascinating. I've seen him fix things and things I didn't know that
existed.
Hey, you can still get parts, or they can get them. It's really good.
I never knew about the digital cassettes. Mm-hmm. There's digital quality cassettes. I didn't know those existed. I didn't know those mini ones existed.
Yeah.
And another thing that was kind of fascinating was that we learned that they're still making cassettes, like artists,
Oh yeah, that's there's a sort of resurgence in that, and vinyl now as well.
Oh yeah,
vinyl never died though. Vinyl never went anywhere, really.
I mean, it came close. It was on, it was in a coma. And they put it in a part of the hospital that nobody goes.
It'd be at Goodwill, what you call their charity shops, and
But there's something great about the hiss and the pop of listening to an LP, and And it's kind of like how they use tubes now in some synthesizers. Like Korg is definitely on that trip, where they use tubes to give the synth warmth, and it just adds to another dimension that you couldn't have before. And so the LPs and cassettes, it's just really fascinating to see technology being reused, or it hasn't really kind of you would think it would have died by now, but it kind of has come back from the grave. Okay, this is the part where you can start filing your nails like a zombie. It just won't die.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was making my zombie reference.
Oh, sorry. Zombies are boring and predictable. That's all I have to say about that.
So, fringe science. That's an interesting topic. Here at the Universe, we started with fringe science as our core subject matter. And I guess, what do you think about alien life? Is it out there, Jeff? Are we waiting to be visited, or has it been, or do you think we've been visited, or do you think it's just a bunch of...
Do you think Bowie was an alien?
Or poppycock,
I like to keep an open mind on a lot of topics, because I don't, until there's sort of some definite proof. But certainly, there's a lot of unanswered questions. If you look back through history, some of these, carvings and cave paintings, like raise some questions about what is being depicted. And you look at some of these satellite images where they show the different marks on the Earth that seem to be patterns and things like that. So, there's a few things there that it's like, going round in my head and thinking, well, nobody's actually come up with a reasonable explanation yet for those. But so, and you've got, and it's a question of probability as well. The universe is supposed to be so big. Could we possibly be the only planet with life on it? So it's a difficult one. So I'll keep an open mind, but I'd like to think we weren't the only ones around here. But yeah, no, I wouldn't really go either way. It's an interesting one, that. So yeah.
Have you come across anything in your life that could come across as maybe paranormal?
Not that I can think of. No. I mean, I live in this little bungalow that makes a lot of strange noises, and because some of the noises it makes are quite weird. Janet won't stay in the house alone, so if I'm away for an evening or whatever, then she'll get one of my grandchildren to come and stay with her or something. So she's not in the house alone, or she'll go somewhere else. But I think that's just sort of like, houses with changing temperatures and things. Houses do sort of have creaks and things, and this house isn't old enough to have a history of people having died here centuries ago and things like that. So, but I mean, so again, I've seen I'm quite interested in the topic. I watch documentaries and things on the television, and at times, there have been situations that are very difficult to explain. So you've got to keep an open mind about these things. But
well, speaking of alien life, let's switch to pop culture. The Land of the Doctor. The new Doctor is coming out pretty soon. And what's your take on that?
I think it was inevitable. I think that's great, actually. So it's going to be quite interesting. Have you seen the photographs of the outfit? Oh yes,
there's elements from different Doctors incorporated into the outfit, and I guess I have mixed feelings, but
that's definitely a guy who a doctor that's been a man a long time that doesn't know how to dress himself as a woman.
Now, when they were, comparing, I think that the Missy was a great villain. Now, she would have been perfect as a doctor too, as well.
Yeah.
I know that there were several women that they had in mind for the Doctor. I'm just not so familiar with this actress.
She's very good. I think she'll do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, she's been in a lot of dramas and that over here. She was in a drama called Broadchurch, but I think the version that you had in America was redone. For
Still had
your
Tennant in
audience.
it.
First off, it's always terrible when they bring a great show from Britain and put it into America. It's like the first cowboy wants to say, well, let's change it up and do this and do that. Why can't you just leave it alone? Either, if you're going to come over here with it.
Because they have to dumb it down.
Well, she played in the British version of the Broadchurch. She played the mother of the boy that was murdered. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and she's been in quite a few things. So she's quite a well-known actress over here. So
which is kind of funny because who played I guess one of the detectives? David Tennant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a Doctor Who connection there. So,
yeah.
Well, it's like I'm saying, I'm going to watch the transition and see how it goes down and, just kind of go with the flow and go from there. So,
I want to talk to him about important stuff.
Oh, my God. Go ahead and
British television.
Yeah.
I was getting there.
The only real access I have to it is bootleg stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
And, oh, my gosh, the stuff I've seen, I just absorb it. It's like seeing a really disgusting accident on the road. Some of these shows.
Get to the point of which shows you're talking about.
Snog, marry, avoid. I don't know if you.
I avoid that program.
I don't know how old that show is, but I blasted through everyone I could find on YouTube, and then y'all had one. Your approach to things, I mean, in your country is very interesting. They seem to it seems to be focused around a shame-based culture. Like you have something like super size versus super skinny. Yeah. That's another one I've, just absolutely absorbed. But then you'll have, because that concept is so bizarre. And then I grew up on PBS over here, public broadcasting. Yeah. On what I call the British classics, of course, the obligatory Monty Python and Benny Hill.
Yeah.
But over here it was called Good Neighbors. Maybe it was over called Neighbors. With Felicity Kendall.
The Good Life.
The Good Life. Yeah. I love that show. We had To the Manor Born. Yes, Prime Minister. And The Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin. And of course, my greatest love was The Two Ronnies. Yeah. And of course, Fawlty Towers.
No, of course, I loved Are You Being Served? I know you hate that, but Mrs. Slocum.
Everybody likes that show.
It just there you go, filing your nails again. But anyway, this is what I find something I really like, and then she just okay, it gives me.
But thank God you will watch.
Well, of course,
UK stuff. We will. Yes. There's a lot of guys. Texans that wouldn't do that,
I'm not your average Texan.
Thank God, you're more involved in that. But
I'm a man from space, and they call me Space.
I also love Nevermind the Buzzcocks, which is like a music-based panel thing. I love your panel shows over there. That Have I Got News for You, and all the stuff I can see bootleg on YouTube, and Big Fat Quiz of the Year. That. I just absolutely adore that show, but I guess this is just me telling you I love your culture.
It seems to be. I mean, all those shows that you mentioned there are all from a few years ago. Right. Most of them. I mean,
course,
I know
Red Dwarf, the original. So
yeah. The problem that we've got at the moment is that they don't seem to be investing money in making programs of that sort of standard anymore.
Oh yes, QI.
So all of these, it seems to be moving towards fly on the wall sort of documentaries of watching. I mean, we've actually got this program that they show over here now where you watch people watching the telly.
What?
I mean, how crazy is that?
I've seen what he's talking about where they showed people 9/11 that never really watched it over there in your country, and it was just them watching reactions of things on TV or on the internet.
I've seen something like that on YouTube, but yeah.
Well, this is a series where these people they sit them in their front room and they show them selected programs and then film them watching it, and people watch it to see their comments. And these people are becoming like celebrities, and all they're doing is just sitting in their front room watching the telly. Mm-hmm. It's like I just think it's crazy, but it's just down to money at the end of the day. The BBC just don't have the money to invest in.
And I think that's programs. Why it's all gone to like YouTube, people doing their own independent content. And then you have over here, you've got Netflix, which is a powerhouse of original content. I'm not sure when you get things that get released here on Netflix. I don't know if it's behind over there or not, but we just finished season 2 of Stranger Things, just consumed that one. And that's just good.
I haven't seen that yet. I don't know whether, I think it's been, I think things like Netflix, it's pretty similar timings. Mm-hmm. Films like feature films in the cinema are still quite a way behind. But most stuff, because I think say like Game of Thrones, that was released here at the same time as well. Mm-hmm. So I don't get Netflix. So I've resisted the Sky television thing and all of this business where you have to pay a license to have a TV or something, or is that old school? Yeah, we still do. They're talking about sort of doing away with it now, but that is just to watch the BBC. Okay, that's not to watch anything else. So because the BBC is the only channel we have that doesn't have any adverts. So
that's why. So you've already paid it. You've prepaid.
Yeah. So the nice thing about it is there's no commercial breaks in any of the programs. So if you're watching a film, you can watch it from start to finish without a commercial break.
See, that's very progressive for back in the day,
But they make their money from the license fee, whereas all the other channels we have are all
like cable.
All money comes from advertising.
Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating. Well, Jeff, it is getting to the bottom of the hour, and we're going to go ahead and let you depart with honor and let you get some shut-eye. But the actual part, Solana's over here. She's just jealous of the fact that, I like how you put it, going to be lazy and sleep. And because there's, that's a story I'll have to get into another time with you. And as I say that, I hope that we have built a dialogue with you, that we're friends now, so that if you ever want to communicate with us or exchange music or any of that good stuff,
hop on, give us an update.
In fact, I've got some ideas I want to shoot your way, and
sure.
And let's be friends. And
that's great.
Don't push it on it.
I'm not trying to be creepy or anything, but
well, thanks very much for inviting me on the show. I've really enjoyed it. So it'd be nice to do it again sometime and just keep in touch and whatever. So that's great.
Well, that's awesome. And once again, thanks for coming on my birthday show, and you've made it great tonight.
Thanks very much. Yeah.
Well, Jeff, were you going to say before I was to let you go?
No, just say thanks very much and enjoy the rest of your birthday.
Oh, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, great. Cheers.
Cheers.
Good night.
Speak soon.
Good morning.
All right. So
awesome.
That was pretty exciting. And so let's just take a break, and we'll finish out the show, take some calls at 713-701-5214. That's 713-701-5214. Can you imagine, or can you believe I remember the number?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
so
do.
Let me play the break music, which we're going to go to break, and I'll do the ID, and then we'll play a little music, and then we'll be back.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Solana.
All right, we're back. And
Yeah, I had to run and go heat up the last of Space Boy's birthday meatloaf that I made him yesterday.
You know, Dale Romero, a good friend of the show, sent me a happy birthday, and because I had posted meatloaf and cake, so he sent me a picture of Meatloaf, the singer, and a piece of cake.
Well, I know you love meatloaf, and I've only made it once, maybe twice. I did it this time by a recipe, and it turned out good. Even I liked it.
It's amazing when you follow a recipe how everything comes together.
Well, and I also put your beloved Tabasco Sriracha on it.
That's some good stuff.
He's over there shamelessly snacking while we're on a live broadcast. Bev, is that not just the worst unprofessional thing you've ever heard of?
I never said I was a professional.
Should we cut him some slack? He's a birthday boy.
Yeah, cut him some slack. Happy birthday.
Thanks, sweetie. I appreciate that. And how are you tonight, Bev?
Oh, not too bad. Can't complain because Bob don't listen anyway.
Yeah, I've heard that expression. Why complain? Nobody listens.
Yep. So how are you guys?
Well, I'm 48 now, so I'm a little bit older, and I think we're doing pretty good. How did you like the show tonight? Was it a good show?
It was awesome.
It's always better with a guest.
Yeah, well, I like listening to you guys too.
Oh,
only for fighting.
The check is in the mail.
Yeah. Only when we're fighting. Oh. I liked it. It was very informative. I loved his accent.
Oh, no, I was fangirling over it. I sound like, I sound like a hick that doesn't get out much, but it's kind of true. I've only left the tri-state area twice to go to California and back, and that was it. Oh, no. I've never left the country. I don't have an inclination or time or money
I'm like
to do
Johnny
it.
Cash. I've been all over everywhere, man. So, it's like, it's kind of like when I say something to Sirlani, like, why didn't you tell me that you were this or
a secret agent? Yeah.
Secret agent or whatever. Well,
see, I was just saying 28 tops. He says, my sister says, you look 28 tops.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 11 years older than you.
She might be
Bob
pandering.
is 9 years older than you.
Well, I know you're all not too far off. As I like to think, the 48 is the new 2022.
59 is the new 30.
If it works, put the shoes on.
Yeah.
That's what I like to think of.
Only you think that.
My body says it doesn't work.
I like Dino is saying, what? I thought Space Boy was younger than that.
That seems like a dig at you.
Well, I thought you were. I didn't think you were 48.
Well, I try to be youthful. I try to put my best foot forward.
Does that mean you're immature?
I'm not. I don't think I'm immature. I just think that I try to be.
Hey, there's a lot of guys your age who are too immature for their number age.
Wow. What's bad is people think Bob's older than me, and I'm 2 years older than him. I love it.
Yeah, we love it too.
What, that people think that Bob looks older than me?
Well, he looks older than me.
He sounds older.
Well, yeah.
No, I tell the secret is okay. My grandma, on my dad's side, his mother, she was very youthful looking, and for when she got to, I forgot what age when she passed away, but she looked very young and youthful, and I believe I got that gene. Now, the only gene that I didn't get was on my mom's side, the full thick hair, because I've got that yarmulke that I wear all the time on the back of my head.
Skin yarmulke.
Yeah, and so it's difficult to hide that spot. But I mean, the rest of my hair, I have thick hair, and and I love it because every time I go to the barber, it's like, man, your hair is really thick.
And I'm doing my best to just wear it right off his head. And
yeah, she is. I think at night when I'm asleep, she must must rub the lotion on the skin, and it's slowly eating away my hair on the back of my head. So, I guess at some point, I'm probably going to pull a Marvin Zindler when I eventually go bald and start wearing wigs. But, so.
He already has wigs.
I have baby fine hair.
So do I, Bev, and that's why I'm in desperate need of a haircut. But, for women, haircuts aren't cheap to get a good one. So.
I got mine done. I got mine at Great Clips. They always send me coupons in the mail.
Trust them.
I just went there Friday and got my hair cut. And that's when she says I look my youngest because, when it's shorter.
When you find someone that cuts your hair the way you want it, it's... For me, I think for women, getting a right hairdresser is like trying to find the right gynecologist. It's that important. So if it's at a salon and you got to pay what you got to pay, then you just go a while till you can pay that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I paid $6 for mine because I had a coupon for $6. So.
But anyway, I go to Great Clips too, and but they do a bang up job. When I start looking old is when my hair grows out, and and I've been in that stage where it's been down to my shoulders.
That's when I met him. It was almost down to his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
He looked like a hippie.
I remember when Bob's was down the middle of his back almost. It was down past his shoulders, but that was years ago. I see his haircuts don't cost anything. He does it himself.
Nice.
Gets the clippers out and buzzes it off.
See, they don't offer coupons at JCPenney salon. That's a problem.
One day, dear. Soon, you'll get your haircut.
Maybe I'll get a Christmas present of a haircut.
We'll see. You have to be nice.
I made you freaking meatloaf.
You might get a piece of coal in that thing. In that.
I love meatloaf. Bob makes a mean meatloaf.
Just wait till you go to sleep tonight. That's all I'm saying.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. If I was you,
I still can't.
I would not go to sleep.
I still can't believe he's eating meatloaf while we're on a live. I still can't.
Look, it's that good. I'm telling you, it's delicious. I mean, I'm just totally. I'm going to tell you, and she might get mad, but the previous meatloaf she's attempted to make have not been that successful.
It's because it was with turkey.
And a good meatloaf has to be a cow and not a gobbler.
Yeah. I went and got you a cow with a little bit more fat in it, and I did do something that was not in the recipe. I don't know if you noticed this.
Oh, okay.
I put a big channel of cheese in the middle of it.
I noticed it.
Mozzarella cheese.
She left out an ingredient. This is funny. She left out an ingredient.
By accident.
And she said, I don't think you even told me. And I said, yeah, it's missing mustard. And it's like, I knew exactly what it was missing, but I wasn't disappointed because the meatloaf was spot on. I think the sriracha / Tabasco sauce I recently purchased really gives it
I topped it with that.
It gives it a bang for your buck. Mm-hmm. So.
Now, see, I can't. When Bob and I first met, he made, oh my God, his chili was so spicy, I couldn't even eat it.
Is that a euphemism for, his chili was so spicy?
Come on, this is a family show now.
Oh, Sirlon, get your mind out of the gutter. But he made it so hot, I couldn't eat it. So, I think he misses eating hot food because I can't eat real spicy food. So he has to really tame down on the spices.
Mm-hmm. He's spicy enough for you already.
Yeah, he's plenty of spice there.
Yeah, most of the time. I'll tell you what, I'm having withdrawals. I can't wait till Monday.
What's Monday?
Well, the cooling fan went out in my computer, and I haven't been able to use it.
Oh, so you were hopping on his computer earlier, weren't you?
Yeah, I was on his computer, and he was on his phone. So we were tag teaming on the... He was typing on his phone, and I was typing on his computer.
Well, Bev,
Like Sirlana said, Bob and Bev tag teaming.
It'd be a good tag team. Wrestling.
well, Bev,
You what, dear?
I'm just goofy. I'm sorry.
you know, she gets discombobulated at this
I'm
time.
hungry, so.
Yeah, and I guess
I always... That's my normal state of mind is discombobulation.
Well, Bev, thanks for wishing me a happy birthday. I guess both
you are so welcome.
you and Bob. I can't leave Bob out because he was there too as well. And anything else you want to tell the Space Cadets before you check out?
Just have a good rest of your night and see y'all next week and have a safe and happy week.
Thank you, Bev. You know we love you.
And I love you too.
No, you're just making it up.
No, I'm not. I don't make up truth.
Well, you're one of the few.
All righty, Bev.
I tell it like it is.
And keep doing that.
Well, I will see you all next
weekend.
week.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Love you both.
Good night, Bev.
Bye.
Next week is Turkey Week. At least here in this country.
And
Thursday is Thanksgiving.
You know, we can't really give somebody, it's interesting you bring that up is because we don't really have a guest. So it'll probably be topic roulette.
Well...
What, you do have somebody?
No, I have a topic I could try to do some research on. I'll just speak with you about it.
Okay, that's something we'll talk about off the air.
If you're interested.
I'm always interested in bringing new and exciting things to the universe.
I found there is research on it, so.
Okay, well, wouldn't you... Yeah, if there's something there, love to talk about it.
Is it bad to have back-to-back music?
No, not at all.
Program?
No,
Okay.
it's what we get behind the mics. We'll talk about anything.
Okay, cool.
So
I will be journeying up the day after Thanksgiving up to
see friend of the show, Leanne.
Yeah, and if we're
And your sister?
good, they'll Cajun fry us a turkey if we reimburse them.
That's been nice. I have to actually work that day, but I don't want to go down that path.
You're not the only one. A lot of people have to work the day after.
So, if you still want to call in, it's 713-701-5214, 713-701-5214. The lines are open, and it is your opportunity to call in while there's still time in this November 18th.
Well, you've still got, 10, 20 minutes left of your birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And just went to heat up your meatloaf to bring you the last bit of meatloaf, and the cat was in the kitchen rolling around on the floor, freaking out. She smelled something on the floor. I didn't see anything on the floor, but she's just like high on some kind of scent that's on the floor. Like when you give a cat catnip, she was just doing like breakdance moves down there, and I'm like,
well, maybe she was,
weirdo.
trying some breakdance moves for her new routine.
Yeah, I got to teach her some more new breakdance moves. But
MC Muffin.
yeah, she has been a pill all day, just screaming at us like she's starving to death. And
So, your sister and Leanne dropped by today, and it was
I had
nice
to
to
give
see
them
them both. And just want to say it was good to see your sister. She's going through some changes, but the changes are for the good. And, we're happy to have her closer to us. And,
yeah, it's kind of like I got a third of my family back.
maybe one day we'll get Dad back.
Well, we
But
got to have to have the bail money,
It'd be nice to have him back in Texas.
Yeah, well,
I'm just saying.
I think he wants to go back to our home city, but, what can you do?
Keep an eye on him. So, let's do some house cleaning, Sirlana.
As you clean off that meatloaf.
Yes, it's quite tasty. Don't hate me.
It really, even I liked it, and I am not a fan of meatloaf, but it's tasty and it's not dried out and that kind of thing.
I'm trying not to smack in the microphone, but
I see why you're leaning away from the mic like this.
I keep
you're
leaning
like way
back.
here.
I lean forward to talk a little bit, and then I lean back to chew.
Well, the housekeeping Elenos will be back next Saturday as usual because I know the day after Thanksgiving is Black Friday when everybody tries to kill each other to buy things that don't matter. Yeah, we'll be here. What do we got for the next? So it's the 25th. Oh my gosh, you know what's after the 25th?
What's
the
that?
2nd of December.
And we do have a guest for that day. I'm trying to think. McFarlane is his last name. And
the scare guy?
Skateboard guy.
The skateboard guy we met at Houston Maker Faire, who is part of a project to do skateboard in VR.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty cool. We saw some of it at Maker Faire.
We'll get to talk to him about
skateboarding
and all that subject matter. So that'll be fascinating.
That'll be our gaming / technology night.
You know, back when I was in high school, I used to hang out with the skater guys. And
really?
I skated sometimes, but there was one time where I took a nasty spill off of a board and landed in an inconvenient position on my rear end. Mm-hmm. And it felt like somebody had kicked me really hard in that inconvenient position. And so I never got back on a board again. That's
probably for the best.
Probably so.
You can actually injure yourself pretty permanently with that kind of stuff if you don't have the proper... I don't know if they make such a thing as butt padding for skateboards and rollerblades and skates, but that would be the only way I'd be able to do it.
I do like, one thing. Well, skateboarding. I've done skates. The skating rink, and I've done ice skating. I've done the skating here in Houston at the Galleria. We're at the ice rink.
Really?
I can ice skate, and I've just never gotten back on because I've just, been fearful of just messing my back up to a point where, it's something to worry about.
Yeah, you've got to calculate the risk now when you get older because our health insurance is not good. So let's not court danger like that. So
a lot of people don't know is that I fell through some stairs. I'm trying to think of when that was.
90s?
Late 90s, and herniated a couple of discs in my back where I had to have the surgery where they put metal cages and rods in my back and bone fusion, and it was just a whole mess.
And when the weather gets cold, that part of your back is cold.
No, usually. Well, sometimes I ache back there, yeah.
Someday you will ache like I ache.
But the nice thing is, I'll take that surgery because before, the sciatic, it would put my legs asleep, and it was just the most uncomfortable feeling, and not to be able to walk. And
do you want me to just talk so you can finish that?
Well, you can. What do you have on your mind?
No, but you're
I'm sorry, I'm pulling the Zoidberg now.
You sound like Wilford Brimley, I swear.
Diabetes.
So we're trying to kill 5 minutes. Let's see. What can I tell you? How Amazon could create a nightmare future for filmmaking.
What?
So, I think, are they trying to get... Okay, so Amazon has a studio. Did you know that? They're trying to plan a prequel series for Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
I will not be watching that. It seems like they're starting to become that by and large from Wall-E, which we thought it was going to be Walmart, but I think it's actually going to be Amazon. So, they've been building all these services. They've got their Amazon Video where you've got video from other established cable companies and, HBO,
For
Stars.
example, I can buy a subscription on Amazon to watch HBO, what they have to offer, like their programming and the movies that are associated. In fact, they even have where you can watch HBO live, whatever's on. I think it's funny because, it's mostly on demand, but, it gives you an option to watch like you're watching it live. So, yes.
So what they're saying here is Amazon, has the Kindle Direct publishing service, and would it add an automatic opt-out film or TV license, including the option for specific stipulations like no rated R adaptations or no character whitewashing. Amazon Studios is where aspiring directors or screenwriters could lease the rights for a production. So I don't know if this means I'm not getting how this is a threat to, but they're saying, for example, YouTube lets music labels automatically collect royalties for their songs. They have official music channels for their artists. Amazon says has tremendous clout in publishing industry, and almost a near monopolistic version of Amazon can make it very difficult for authors to refuse them. It could also contractually make filmmakers' work permanently exclusive to Amazon Video. Scammers and trolls would find a way to game massive semi-automated catalog, just as they game Amazon retail marketplace. I don't know what they mean by that. So if they're saying if Amazon keeps ultimate control over adaptation rights, it could even let studios pull a successful project out from under its independent creators. So I don't know what the problem is here.
I guess it's stifling, kind of like the indie artist.
So, like Kindle Worlds, it instance lets current authors write tie-in stories for existing book series. So you could end up with a franchise, writers eternally churning out Amazon fan fiction for their favorite Amazon TV series, and directors processing it into a spin-off after spin-off. To make things worse, it'd be easier to get away with telling fan writers that they're privileged simply to have their material picked up for a project, that they shouldn't expect payment as well. So I don't know if they're talking about picking up an independent book, making it into a little video, and then you're not getting anything from it, or...
I get the idea that it's basically, let's say you wrote fan fiction for Harry Potter. Just indulge me. And so that fan fiction gets put into some kind of production for a spin-off TV show, and you're not going to get anything out of it other than, hey, that's some great work. And have a nice day. Mm-hmm. So, But that brings us to the end of the program, Solana. So good job. You get a thumbs up. So on that magical note, say goodnight, Solana.
Nah.
Spaceboy Universe is hosted by Spaceboy and Sir Lana. Executive producer is Sir Lana. Social media producer is Dennis Koch. Associate producer is Lee Ann Cordes. Music production is Spaceboy of SpaceboyMusic.com. Special thanks goes out to Lee Ann K, K28, Mark S, and Bob N. This has been a Spaceboy Universe production. Support the universe by exploring Spaceboy Universe with Spaceboy and Sir Lana. Sweet dreams, Space Cadets.